me. He's been in the game for a long time. He's done a lot of things from consulting, digital marketing. And what I want to do in today's episode, I want to just dive into his opinion, his hot takes on how AI is shifting digital marketing. Anebi, what's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, nice to be on air with you, brother. I'm doing good.
Dude, we've been connected for a while. Yeah, I'm up in the north side of Phoenix. I think you're on the other end of the
Yeah,
valley, but you've been here for a while. So tell the people who are listening, who are you? What do you do?
yeah, absolutely. Rewind a little bit. I've been in the U.S. 12 years. I'm a Nigerian immigrant out here, and been fortunate to work with a variety of companies, anywhere from larger enterprises like American Express, Zelle. I've done consulting for the likes of Microsoft, for Dell. I promise I'm not trying to make it all rhyme, but that just happened. But so I've been all over, and then I've worked with startups. I've built some companies along the way. I've done consulting work with like digital marketing consulting, and I guess I love the game. You know, what does it look like to build technology and to build scalable solutions and work with people through the process? Right now, I'm day gig and consulting with the state and doing as time permits some of the other stuff on the side, nights, weekends. I just love the game.
Yeah, dude, you gotta love the game. You gotta love, especially with how things are going today.
Yeah.
I always just like to ask my guests this: AI is kind of taking over the talk of the world. Like, tell me, like, what was your first AI moment? Like, where you're like, oh crap, this is game changing.
Like I few years ago I started looking at AI and ways to use it, and yeah, I could argue, right, it's been around for a minute. You're a software engineer, all the ways when it was called data science and machine learning and all of that. So I started to get a little taste for that. Like at Amex, one of the things we did was building a machine learning engine for going through some OFAC stuff, faster and things like this. So that gave me an early taste for what that looked like. But I would say in the past 24 months, man, with ChatGPT, Gemini, and now Claude Code, it's been a total game changer. I I think for me where the aha moment, like first, oh my gosh, this is a paradigm shift, was being able to build with Lovable and Replit stuff that I would have spent some time mucking around in Figma to create a clickable, draggable prototype to then present to someone, a potential investor or customer. And they're like, this looks good. And then I pass it to engineering or build stuff. Like I was able to shorten that time gap significantly by just going directly to build a prototype, an MVP, if you will. Like literally, I could start taking money with that MVP with the features we had on there. And I showed it to some customers, and they were like, "Oh yeah, I would pay for the full thing." So that was a big aha moment for me of this is a paradigm shift. Can move orders of magnitudes faster. I was able to spend a couple hours to build an MVP and spent a more couple more hours to work on flows and connect it to Stripe to take money. And I was in the game again. Just even 2 years ago, that would have taken that entire process that I just described. Probably have taken me a couple weeks to muck around and figure things out and then chat with engineering to get an MVP going and all of that stuff. So that was huge.
So for people who are watching, like you said, I have my software engineering background. When it comes to your background and technical skills, like what were you good at before this AI boom?
Yeah, so to rewind a little bit, I started my career as a data guy. I started as a SQL developer, SQL, writing as Microsoft SQL Server was kind of what I focused and then I got into Python a little bit, just enough to be dangerous. I don't consider myself a software engineer by any means, but I once got a job offer, start going through a few interviewing rounds as a software engineer. So I knew enough to be dangerous, right?
Okay.
I consider myself a self-taught, hacker type guy. I will figure it out. I watch other YouTube videos and muck around and build something with it enough to be dangerous. So maybe a power user. I would call myself. I'm still reticent to say I'm an engineer, but that's it. That's my background. SQL and then some Python and then some R for data heavy applications,
Right.
and
Right.
just kept stacking on from there. And I realized I love the people aspect of presenting to leadership, the business of influence. So I
Hmm.
started gravitating into product management. I could also speak plain speak, business speak to the business folks, but I could also translate that to engineers. So I was a good translation layer back and forth. So I found myself going into, I became a scrum master, and then I became a product owner, and then I became a product manager, and have grown my career from there, figuring out the interplay between the technicalese, but also plain English. Now I can go back and forth.
Right. No, that totally makes sense. And yeah, I think you mentioned Lovable, you mentioned Replit. These are very, very popular tools. Now, a lot of people I think who might be watching, they might feel like they're behind. You know what I mean? Like they're like, crap, I've been hearing about it for a lot. But this the social media engine just makes you feel like you're behind.
Oh yeah.
Are you still using Lovable Replit? Have you kind of changed how you've been using those tools into your everyday workflow?
Absolutely. And to that, this I know when you asked me about doing a diagram, I'm trying to find it. I said we don't need one, but there is a diagram that shows a bunch of boxes. You've probably seen this online that shows the AI adoption, right? Like who's using AI in the 8 billion or so people in the world, right?
Hmm.
It's a very tiny like really small. It's I think 1 box or whatever, right? If
Right.
all boxes represent 8 billion people, so that is crazy. You and I in the tech software space, see a lot of folks around us, peers, right? Probably, using it. But when you scale up more, right, and you realize there's still massive opportunity. People are not behind.
Yeah.
Even if you're feeling that way, even if U.S. media or whatever media you consume, makes it feel that way. The truth is, there's still a lot of people who are not using AI in their daily workflows or at all, right? Google search, crazy enough, is still pretty darn high, and the search engines, not just Google, Bing
Right.
and all the other ones, right? So there's still a lot of people whose native interaction with search is still go search for stuff, right? Look it up and see what works. Versus my workflow increasingly is to go directly to, Gemini. I use Gemini, I use Claude, and I don't use ChatGPT anymore, surprisingly. But Gemini and Claude, we can talk about this later, are big parts of my workflow right now. So I find myself increasingly just searching directly in there. And now I'm even going so far as working with it directly from my command line interface. Again, like I said, I'm a hacker type guy. But yeah, to go back to your previous question, I don't think for people who are not using it yet, they're definitely not behind. Right. In fact, there might even be some advantage to jumping in now. Some of the earlier kinks have been figured out.
Definitely. Okay, man, dude, we covered a lot there. Man, what do we want? Okay, so you got mentioned like you're a hacker type. I think a lot of people like you. It's like I've always been dangerous, but this tool practically makes you a software engineer in a lot of ways, right? Like what's your go-to vibe stack right now?
Go to Vibestar. Okay, so Lovable. I have a Lovable subscription still,
Hmm.
and genius for Lovable in the sense that it connected. You're gonna tell I'm geeking out here. That it connected ability to get a domain name and publish your stuff. So that's like a loop right there for people to keep coming back. So I do have some some domains via Lovable. So now I'm
Okay.
like, well, I have to keep paying for Lovable, which reinforces that loop. So I'm already paying for a domain with 20, 26 or whatever it is dollars a month right
Hmm.
through there, but it gives me access to credits and stuff. So um, I still go in there to build out quick prototypes. I have an idea, I have a thought. Maybe there was a prototype I had sitting in my backlog on Figma for a while. I'm like, oh, actually, I could make this thing like work and then demo it to someone. So I go there quite a bit, and then I use Gemini or Claude to refine the prompts that I want. Right. That way, I'm not explaining things in so many words. Right. Because part of the thing with working with large language models is being able to prompt and get them to do the thing that you want, and the shorter you can get that from your prompt to it doing what you want it to do, then the better value you get. So instead of going back and forth in Lovable and saying, I want you to do the thing that does the thing, right? I explain that in Claude or Gemini, and I go back and forth with those two, depending on what I want. And then I put it in Lovable to refine that. Now, that said, increasingly, I'm finding myself just doing it directly in Claude code, just
Okay.
the whole thing, right? Because dude, it's wild. With what we have available in Claude Code, where I can just describe what I want, it figures it out, it builds an HTML page, and then I can host that, right, if I wanted to. So that's an evolution in my own workflow right now. Eventually, I could anticipate. Lovable is nice. Again, I have some domains on there, so it's easy to deploy through there for some things. But increasingly for other stuff I'm looking to build, I'm moving towards Claude Code directly, maybe some Gemini, build it in Claude Code, and then figure out hosting like Versal GitHub pages or something like that to host it and give it like a website that people can interact
Right, right.
with the solution. And then there's some other things I'm also beginning to uh, work with, like MakerKit and Ship Fast. These are what boilerplates with the code and Stripe and everything integrated. So pull from that and then just build out what I want directly in Claude Code.
You said MakerKit. Now that one is I believe that's a Next.js. But tell our people who are watching, like how important these templates are.
Well, the beauty of a template like that. So MakerKit, and maybe this will go in show notes later. I'm not being paid by MakerKit. MakerKit is more so B2B. If you're building like a B2B SaaS solution or something like that, MakerKit provides a lot of the work that would have taken you a couple weeks if you're a software engineer, by the way, right? Like
Hmm.
connecting Stripe, connecting user authentication, figuring out the flows for your application, figuring out the data layer. Like, do you want to use Superbase? Do you want to use Firebase? Like some ORM database, like whatever it is you want, right? Like that would have taken you some time to figure out and stitch it all together. But now, right, a lot of these has been abstracted away. It's literally given to you on a platter. Here you go. Now just focus on the solution that you want to build, right? There's multi-tenancy. This is insane.
This is a lot.
As a
Like
software engineer, maybe you can speak to this, right? Each one of these things, right, to get it dialed
this
in.
is this is a dedicated team. Like every this is a traditionally somebody needs to be like an off service team.
Yeah.
And then you need billing, subscriptions, Scrum team. Yeah, this is crazy to get all this from the jump. This is super helpful.
Exactly. And that's what I see with AI, right? If you have access to, again, a maker kit, or you're a software engineer, like you're really doing the thing or have access to a template to do the thing, then AI is a good rocket fuel for that. This already works, right? You can look at their repository, you can look at users. They have thousands of people using MakerKit. So
Hmm.
you take something that has been battle tested and works, and then you add the AI sauce to it, and then you can move a lot faster. And now for someone like me, or you, or other people listening and watching this, right? You can take that and then you can focus more on solutions versus fighting with the code and trying to figure stuff out. Now it's not going to be perfect. There's still work to be done.
Right,
But
but
I
it's
think
so
it's
much
shaving off
easier.
a lot of time that you would have poured into tech, figuring out the technology.
Can you talk a little bit about like how you use Lovable now? I think it's one of the most popular tools.
Hmm.
I have seen so many different pitches from it where prototyping, handing it off to people. I've seen people say, I get just more or less my designs and then go into Claude Code. What's your workflow when you're starting something with Lovable?
So with Lovable, gotta have the idea. It's nice. Lovable has a template library for what other people have built, but usually I come to Lovable with an idea I already have, and then I roll from there. For
Now, are you
example,
refining that idea? Like, are you in
I'm
Claude
refining.
and chat? Where are
Yeah.
you starting?
So I'm refining in chat a little bit. Now the challenge with Lovable is it's credit based, so you get so many credits per month, depending on what member tier,
Hmm.
subscription tier you have. So when you refine in chat so much, that's using your credits, right? You refine and then it deploys for you. So that's why I do some of my refinement in a tool like Gemini, for example, right? Because that's not using credit. I already paid for it. I'm not using more credits, so I can refine some more. So when I come to Lovable, right? Yeah. So if you look at the Pro, for example, and it's free, it's freemium. But if you look at Pro, right, that's 100 monthly credits, and you can buy more credits if you want to, and it can
It can
go up
go up
pretty
fast.
fast. Yeah. So that's one challenge there. And well, I don't use all my credits, so well, I use tools that I'm already paying for, right? And I do some refinement, and then when I come to Lovable, it's more so the visualization of it, right? An MVP. For example, one of the things I did in Lovable was a facility management solution that I'm looking at building, right? So I was able to do some early validations with some potential customers, and then I used Lovable to build it, to build the MVP. A buddy helped me out, and then I continued development in there, and it got me 0 to 1. So now instead of abstract concept or flat mock-ups shown to a customer, it's actually something they could interact with, click, log in with the username, password, or magic link. Actually, I use the magic link. So those are the kinds of things I think Lovable works well for. I'm yet to meet someone who has built a full solution on Lovable and grown it to like 100K or so in revenue. Yeah, I'm sure they're out there. I just don't know someone personally. But again, you can hook up Stripe and start taking payments. I just don't know how bulletproof the infrastructure is in Lovable to scale something that scales. So
You
I see
know,
it very much as a
one
prototype MVP tool.
one thing I'll share, and again, like you go on Twitter, you go on X, whatever you want to call it. People, I think they hype up Lovable because there is an aspect, like you said, great for prototyping MVP, showing customers. Like that was like really hard to do back in the day.
Yeah.
But I've just been hearing rumors that's really hard to get off of Lovable because it's kind of like the Bumble business model. It's like once you find your partner, if you want to keep your partner, you gotta delete the app. Like, hey, I'm just kind of just from memories, honey. Like that's not gonna work. But so I've been hearing, like you're saying, like I've been noticing a shift. People kind of still use it for prototyping, but they'll use other tools to kind of do the planning, and they'll use Claude Code to start building the real thing. Is that what you're doing?
Yes, that's what I'm doing, and increasingly think we'll be doubling down on, Claude Code, and then find templates like MakerKit and etc. that I can then, you know, expand on, jump off from the base that I've built.
Oh man, that is okay. So, tell me about people have heard about Cloud Code. Again, if you're an engineer watching this, it's probably not new to you,
Yeah.
but I feel like Cloud Code has kind of taken products that people and they've turned it up technically a bit because they're like, dude, I'm in the terminal. So, like, what tool are you using where you're working with Cloud Code? And then, like, how did you get involved? Like, were you intimidated? Did you figure it out easily? What was your experience?
I would say a little bit of intimidation, but I have buddies who are using Claude Code already, even product folks, right? Who like shout out to Travis Johnson. He puts on Anthropic events out in Orange County,
Okay.
California, and we hung out weeks ago. And I think that was a tipping point for me, just seeing Travis's workflow and what he's building and what he's doing. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the future right here. And then there's another buddy, also shout out to Stephen Cathers. Stephen is a senior software engineer, and he was just talking to me. He didn't even mention Cloud Code specifically, so I don't know what he uses, but he was just talking to me about the change in his workflow and how AI tooling is evolving, and that conversation as well got me thinking more about Claude Code. And I mean, I know Google Gemini also has like the Gemini CLI. I have that as well, and I'm playing around with both to see. But dude, Claude Code just
It's
freaking
so
works.
powerful. It
It's
is so powerful.
powerful. It's like it's like the equivalent of using a landline phone and then you get a smartphone and you're like, oh wow, I have so much power, right? The level of getting you further along that I have seen with it has just been so phenomenal. To the extent that the MVP I told you about, right?
Hmm.
I may start growing that using Cloud Code to expand on that, pull it from Lovable and just go to town on it and keep building it up and see. Now again, I will still need a software engineer at some point, I believe, for the level of scale and growth that I want. It's something we're probably going to exit at some point if we can monetize it. But that said, getting that much further along, so when I do bring someone in, it's further along. I'm going to building. This is me getting technical here. Test cases in there, right? So I'm testing every new feature I add, just so when it comes to bringing in a software engineer or partner, right, things are cleaned up a bit. I don't want a bunch of technical debt, in there because I optimize for speed.
Right.
So those are some things to think about, like when you're building with any of these tools, right? Just keep an eye on technical debt and building ways to mitigate the risk of that happening. It's not going to be perfect. You will still have some kind of technical debt, but you want to have as little as possible.
No, I'm with you there. That's a real good talking point. Scale is really, I think, the difference, because building a prototype was so hard for so long. It took a whole team to do it. Now one person can do that, like yourself, like you're saying. You have that, but once you get past 1,000 users to 10,000, or if you're like a very popular site in a top 100 but 100 million daily active users, that's when like software engineering. That's where it's like, okay, those are harder to replace. But
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, it used to be a team of architects. Now it might be Anebi and one architect. Like, it's just easier to manage because of this tooling.
Yeah. I like that frame. And even what you said about architect, I think my software engineer buddy Steven I was telling you about, he was saying how increasingly he's seen like the shift for good software engineers where you become like a, I don't think he uses words, but I'm going to paraphrase, like a shepherd for AI agents, for teams. You can move a lot faster, and you keeping things working well and calibrated. Like someone who's not at your level may not even understand those bottlenecks and those situations, but because you've seen it, you've done it. Now you can keep the software and team members right marching, but they are all moving faster because you can put guardrails in place, right? You essentially
Hmm.
scale yourself a little bit more to keep things iterating, and you just make sure you tweak those keep tweaking those levers. Um, so there's still productivity gains, team velocity is locked in, and you don't stray too much from the trajectory, the vector.
Man, that's very spot on, man. Oh man. Okay, shifting gears for a moment. So if you go on my social media feed, Anibi, you're just get basketball clips and then AI, and then like some parenting clips. Like that's more or less my social media feed. And like I said, I think it's easy to fall into, God, I'm just so behind. And now people are talking about OpenClaw and they're
Oh,
doing Mac Minis, and like,
uh,
what's your thoughts on, like, because there is like an AI hype train.
yeah.
Like the crypto bros had their moment in like 2016, 2017, right? What's your thoughts on the hype train when it comes to AI?
There is a lot of hype, like a lot, like you said. It's the joke of AI is the sauce now, right? Everyone's adding it to everything. Enterprise companies are like, "Hey, we're AI first now," and it's like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of that. But if you cut through the BS and through the hype, there's really good practical applications for it. Now people can get lost in the hype and just be like, it's off-putting, or get lost in the hype and keep doing a bunch of fast food type stuff versus the real meat, right? The real core. And I think the power and promise of AI, from what I see, is one ability to move orders of magnitudes faster for nimble players. So, like you said, instead of Anebi and three engineers or a couple architects, it's me and one now, and we can be nimble and agile and execute and focus on the problem that we're solving. If we can do that, right, delivering enterprise value, delivering value to our customers, we can do that faster and iterate and learn. Because if you think of learning as, or wisdom as being able to learn stuff and apply that and get wiser, right? So if you can do
Hmm.
that loop a lot faster, if I can learn six different lessons faster and apply it and be wiser, right? Then I'll be wiser faster, if that makes any sense. And so if you think of companies and delivering value as you're going to make mistakes, but you want to iterate through Okay, don't do that again. Double down on this. So I think AI helps those who are smart and can do that faster. So they can learn, they can apply, they can be nimble and agile. You can deploy your stuff to like 600 customers versus staying with 20 and figuring it out. It's like you just the feedback cycle can be a lot faster, and you can just move. You can move at the speed, at like really freaky fast speed. So I see AI doing that a lot for a lot of companies. And this is not just me hyping it. I know people personally who are doing that,
Right.
deliver outsized enterprise value, right? You have consulting firms who are now charging 100 grand for a project because they figured out how to use AI to move faster and deploy stuff. And to the company they are serving, this 100K the company pays them actually is delivering them $10 million in value. So sure, I'll pay you 100 grand to unlock $10 million from my enterprise company. So I'm seeing more things like that, value based propositions. I can go on and on, but I think like, and then if we scale it down for like a marketing company, a small player, it's like, content creation. Now there's stuff about AI slop out there. I think there are good ways to still use AI, right? For example, repurposing video content.
Hmm.
If we have a conversation like this, right, or 1 hour conversation. Now the AI tooling out there, or tools that have AI built into them that can help you cut it into clips. That stuff you'd have hired a video editor to do years ago, right? And they charge you what, $40 an hour, or whatever. And now with a $40 per month, not per hour subscription,
Right.
put your 1 hour video in there, and now it just spits out 10 different video clips that you can use on your social media platforms. AI. So there's so many use cases for that. When I say ability to scale and move a lot faster.
Let's talk a little bit about like working with people and more or less, like you said, being in that consultant role and talking about AI. Because what's been your experience? Like we said earlier in the show, it's not too late to get in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I just call it like talking to like grandma or the boomer effect. Like they hear AI and they kind of roll their eyes, but they still want to make money. What's been your experience working with people who are, let's just say, AI resistant?
So there are a few subsets. There are those that are AI resistant, and there are those that are, it's not exhaustive, and there are those that are AI unaware. I would say they're like, oh, AI. What does that mean? Some
Hmm.
people think AI automatically is, when you say AI, they're like, oh, the deep fake stuff. That's the thing behind all the deep fakes, right? So for those that are AI resistant, I think showing them the value of AI. Now again, I am by no means on the train that AI will solve all the world's problems. No, AI will not solve all the world's problems. It's not going to solve world hunger and all of that stuff. So I'm not putting AI on the pedestal as some god to be deified and worshipped, but I see it as a tool, that very useful tool, similar to calculator. A calculator, right? It's great. I don't have to do complex calculation in my head. Go in there, boom, boom, boom. A computer, right? You and I talking through the interface of a computer, helpful. So that's how I see AI. It's a tool that humans can leverage to do X, Y, Z faster. Now, the capacity for good and the capacity for bad equally high. And what does it look like to steward that and use it for good stuff? So, for those who are AI resistant, I think I'd want to understand their resistance. I've had conversations with a lot of people. Some they just don't understand it enough. But once they grok it and they have a better understanding for how this applies to them and how it can be useful, like heck, docs have AI built in now, right? I mean, Grammarly has been around for a while, and Grammarly gives you suggestions. Now
Right.
it's been, suggestions to make your writing better, suggestions to make your writing clearer. Like that's a very small use case, but like it's proliferated so much all through what we're doing, where sometimes you don't even notice it. Now the ability to chat with it, like ChatGPT did and Gemini and some of the other large language models, has changed things. But the AI has been working in the back scenes, back end, for a lot of the tools people already use every day.
Hmm.
We just don't know it. So I think educating about how it's a tool and it can be useful goes a long way. And this might help some of those that are either hesitant or just don't understand enough about.
Now, imagine like somebody would come to you and they're just on a budget. They're like, "Hey, man, I want to get into AI, but I don't have Cloud Code Max money. I can't pay for multiple subscriptions." what like 2 or 3 tools are you telling? And let's imagine it's like a college person. You're telling them to get into right away.
So depending on who, I would say there's a lot of free tooling out there. I mean, even a college, a lot of the AI tools. If you have a college edu email,
Mm-hmm.
.edu or something like that, they'll give you free access. Like so, there is that. I know. I think Google has that. Gemini has that. Right? Is you can get access to their pro version as a student if you can verify. I would suspect ChatGPT. I haven't used ChatGPT in a bit. I suspect they have something similar.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Claude too. Claude is in a bunch of campuses, right? I know the Claude campus ambassador for ASU. Oh yeah, there we go. Free for 1 year. So I bet a lot of the large, I mean, and they have an incentive, right? The AI companies have an incentive. If they can get in with students and there's more adoption, well, then that's long-term revenue. Great. So they're not doing it because they're just really altruistic. So students can get access to that. Oh yeah, there we go. Claude for education. Um, let's see there. It's either a free tier or really reduced price. Let me
I think
just
what you're saying though. Again, I think this is like good to know. I know everyone is gonna have different. This seems like it's more like for universities, but that Gemini one,
yeah.
like this is spot on. Where it's like you just this is where I think Google is kind of killing the game.
Yeah.
Like they're just coming in and offering everything for free,
Oh
which
yeah.
is which is making it hard. Like you said earlier, like I'm not really using chat. I've been noticing the trend where people are abandoning Chat GPT to Claude or Gemini or some free alternative. Have you been noticing that?
Hey, I'm 100%. Again, I'm paying for Google Workspace for my business.
Mm-hmm.
So I have that already. When I look across all my subscriptions, I'm like, I don't want to keep. If I don't need to, it has to be really useful. And then there's Claude. It's like, why do I need all three of them? So there is that for sure. But on the Google thing there, like, dude, it's crazy what Google's doing with you know they're baking AI into all their solutions, right? Google works across Google Workspace and stuff. So I think long term, like it's the AI war is heating up, but Google is gonna be up there, in my opinion. Um,
Who? Okay, we got the big players. So you got OpenAI with ChatGPT, Sora. You got Google, Gemini, Veo, Nano Banana. You got Anthropic, Claude Code, Cowork. And then you have like Llama and some other alternatives. If you were a betting man, who do you feel like turns into the Amazon of like this AI world, or just like we just
oh man,
dominated you?
it's I'm gonna put two there. I'm gonna say Claude, Anthropic, or what with what they're doing, and then Google.
Okay.
Google just has so much. I would say Google. They have so much scale. Right. It's
Hmm.
insane. The level of scale. Google has literally unlimited money with with their business model and ads and YouTube and all the stuff, right? So they had literally just they can outlast the competition. I don't. OpenAI is not making a profit yet, right? And Google is cash flowing hand over fist with the other business models. Even their AI model, I think, might be profitable already, if not super darn close.
Hmm.
So they have scale, they have chips, they full vertical integration. They've got that. So I'd bet on them. Now Claude or Anthropic and what they're doing like is pretty remarkable. I think it's not out of the realm of possibilities. And maybe I don't know what the heck I'm saying. If Anthropic gets bought, now I'll be interested. I don't think they'll sell, but it could be interesting to see like a big player like just say we're just gonna full on just buy Anthropic. It's gonna be a huge mega deal.
You know what's crazy is watching all these AI companies, kind of like you said, have like the measuring contest, if you will, with each other. And then I think we forgot to mention XAI and like Elon and
Ah,
Grok,
yeah,
and
yeah.
again,
I
you could
even
probably go
posted.
on a whole rant with them, but it's just crazy to see because Stripe is probably the one company really benefiting from all of this because so many people are like, "Oh, how do you make money?" Well, you need Stripe, and I'm like, bro, it seems like Stripe is like universally the one tool I hear everybody using when they're doing
That
payments.
is so true, dude. That is so true. Um, wow, yeah. Stripe. Nvidia is still in there.
Mm-hmm.
All the players. I guess there's something to be said there, right? It's the thing about the investing principle of if in a gold rush, I'm going to paraphrase this. If there's a gold rush, right, be in the business of selling the picks and the shovels. I think Stripe to a certain degree is that the tooling for this. People have to pay somehow. I don't think a lot of these companies are thinking about building their own payment infrastructure. That's expensive and it takes time. X though, to your point about XAI, I think with what Elon is trying to do, right, where he's gonna have his own payment infrastructure, and so okay, that could be interesting. But yeah, I didn't think about that, but that's true. Stripe is a common denominator with a lot of these tooling.
Okay, let's change gears for a second because one thing I wanted to talk about in this episode is we're both fathers, right?
Yeah,
Um, being in the middle of of a decade, I've always kind of said, Anebi, like every decade has its moments, right? So you have the dot com, then you have mobile, and then you can even say like a little bit of like mobile 2.0, crypto, and now AI is all these things that have been happening to us. But we're adults. We got kids. So how have you seen AI impact children? And second question,
yeah.
how are you exposing your family to AI so they don't feel like they're left behind either?
Um, I think our kids are gonna grow up in a remarkably different world in terms of interaction with technology, where voice first asking for stuff versus manually typing and searching. I think we're gonna have more the AI assisted type stuff, AI assistants helping. Like daughter can already say, "Okay, Google," and no, don't listen to me. Uh, yeah, I can sit down and say stuff or Alexa and like. So I think there is that. I have a 3.5 year old, my older daughter, 3.5, like, so she can talk and have conversations now, which is pretty wild. So there is that. There's storytelling opportunities. There have been times I've generated stories with one of the models and added
Hmm.
pictures to it. And hey, on demand storytelling right here, whatever story. Right, there was one I did about a mouse that was like a phoenix type mouse so it could regenerate, like, so there's just things like that you can really tell stories, and I've used that with my family. um, my wife too, interacting more with like the llms, and you know having it go do research and bring stuff back versus doing all the google searches and getting like 1,000 different links.
Hmm.
um, so yeah, it's transforming how my family interacts with technology. We're still trying to make sure that in an AI first world, increasingly, again, per that chart I talked about earlier, a lot of people are still not using AI. So it's hard to say AI first world, but you know what I mean. In a world where technology generally and AI is on the rise, like I do think that one of the premiums people are going to start placing on stuff is human. What makes us human? The face-to-face interaction, right? Already when COVID happened, right, a lot of students who were out of school, and when they came back to school, like and even adults, quite frankly, social interaction was awkward. Like we're not awkward enough, especially those of
Right.
us in tech.
It was different,
Even
yeah,
like,
for
do
sure.
I shake? Do I hug? Do I fist bump? It was weird, right? So for me, I think like placing a premium on teaching our kids what makes us human in the first place. The AI doesn't replace us. It's a freaking tool. It's not God that we worship. It's a tool that we use to go about our lives better. So
Hmm.
teaching them not from an early age to leverage it like a tool, like a calculator, like a computer. It's kind of something I'm thinking a lot more about. Um, where they can move faster and get things done, but again, it's a tool. So keep that in mind. That's one thing. And then teaching our kids, how do you interact with people? How do you greet? How do you address someone? Right? How do you? For me, I love putting on events and stuff, and I think that's a good hack, quite frankly, for growth in life. How can you create a space for other people to come and connect and do stuff? I've grown my career tremendously by just being able to do that, and you know, so help me God, I would teach my kids how to do the same thing, and that's something I want to double down on. How do you learn how to learn? You know, learn how difficult subjects, apply it, learn, grow from it. So that's a mouthful, but those are some of the things I'm thinking about with
Okay.
kids and whatnot as they grow.
Now, what do you think of the hot take where somebody like Elon will say, in a few years, AI, robots, all of it will just be doing everything we want? So we will have to figure out what to do with our time.
Personally, I'm gonna say that is BS. Now, again, I think that we'll have robots, autonomous robots, and Optimus and all of that stuff.
Hmm.
But the human capacity for the human experience, the human condition, there's just so much more to be done, right? Even if you figure out other low level tasks, people will figure out other things to do, right? So, and again, I have to look at what he said in context. I know he wants to, yeah, there's a lot Elon wants to do, and he's incentivized to say that, and people buy his robots and all of that stuff. But that said, I think there's always going to be something to be said for the human condition of experiences, of doing things, of figuring out problems. There will be problems always. No,
Right.
food, world hunger is not solved yet. And I keep saying that because that's like the big thing a lot of people talk about. But like, there's going to be a lot of things to still work on. Even if certain tasks are taken away, abstracted away, and automated, then there'll be other problems and other tasks to work on. So I think for a long time, and maybe there might be this sometime in the in future, right? But I think a couple of years, heck nah. There's a long ways to go. So many problems right now that we haven't even figured out yet.
That's such a good point that you called out too, because when I have these conversations with people, they're say like, "Did you hear Elon? Did you hear CEO of Google? Did you hear CEO of Microsoft? Did you hear Nvidia talking about software engineering is going to be dead. People who code won't be coding. If you do anything else, your job is going to be eliminated." And I just have to remind people, like, dude, their job is literally to sell you their company. So, so they're
Yeah,
just really cool and rich. And if you're like, yeah, of course he says that. What do you think? It's like that's his job. Like he's hyping
exactly.
you up.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more.
Oh man. All right. We're coming toward the end of this episode. Just want to give you an opportunity. What are you currently working on? What should the people be following you for? What type of people do you help out?
Honestly, I just want to thank you so much, by the way, Caleb, for bringing me on. Such a pleasure. Always a pleasure to chat with you. I just want to solve interesting problems and meet cool people. Quite frankly, it's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm consulting with the state gov on CX product analytics stuff. And then rest of my time is just looking at solutions to build, how to leverage AI, how to build community, how to put it together and create space for people to find the others. My LinkedIn is where I'm most active. Other social media, yeah, man. So folks want to follow me and see what I'm working on. LinkedIn is the best place. And if people want to reach out and chat, you know, just hit me up.
And then let me just make sure I'm going to post it here so people can see. Here's his LinkedIn. Also, just talk a little bit about Main Street.
Oh
What
yeah,
should they expect out of the Main Street newsletter?
Oh yeah, so I bought a cleaning company in 2024, August 2024, and I realized that space is so fragmented. That space being main street type businesses, traditional businesses in the US. There's a
Hmm.
lot of fragmentation around buying them, growing them. How do you connect with people? A lot of the operators are just heads down working on stuff. So Main Street for me was my play to create space, and there are other publications out there, but mainstreet.fm is going to eventually evolve into a platform where folks can have profiles. You can learn stuff. You can look at, okay, this is how John built his company to $5 million a year in revenue over 6 years, right? This is what it looked like. Here's the play. This is how Martha down the street did XYZ. This is how Lucy in San Diego did XYZ. So just very story driven, and then curating resources that I didn't put together, that just out there, good stuff, templates, tools, deals, discounts for the community. That is part of my pathology, if you will. I like to like curate stuff and build platforms so that I'm in the cleaning space, Main Street space. So I did that. And a part of it is deal flow. There's a lot more people looking into how do you buy a business? How do you grow a business? I don't think you need to go pay an influencer a couple $1,000s to learn that. The knowledge is out there on YouTube. And if you ask long enough, you're going to find it. So part of what I'm doing is curating that in one place. Here's how to go use an SBA loan to buy a business with $10,000 down, right? To buy a 100K business, like how do you do that? So how can we shorten that gap from knowledge to execution? That's a mouthful. There's a lot more. If people are curious, just hit me up and I'll explain. But at a very high level, it's what I'm looking at with Main Street.
No, I really appreciate you being on, man. Last thing I'll ask you, if you were to leave our viewers with one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say the world is full of negativity. If you look on the news, there's a lot of stuff to make you, oh my gosh, I'm too late to AI. You're screwed if you didn't start AI 4 years ago or whatever it is. But increasingly, I'm leaning into possibilities. If you look through the frame of possibilities, right? Like, how might this happen? And you have this open posture, the growth mindset, there is no telling where you're gonna go. There's no telling what the limit would be. I have a newsletter as well called Possibilities on LinkedIn. You're gonna see a pattern here, but I would say just lean into the power of that. Right? If you're if you if you're negative about life, then well, that's all you're gonna see, doom and gloom. But if your posture is one of possibilities, connecting the dots, then there's no telling where you're gonna go.
Anebi, thanks so much, man, for being on the show. Thanks for catching up with me, man. Let me know if you need your fractional CTO. You know where I'm at. I got you. Everybody for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And we'll talk to you later. Tech
All
out.
right, let's get it.
All right. And I'm going to hit stop. But I think we're still beyond.